Acts of discrimination against First Nations in Canada. Not able to vote until 1960. Even while First Nations got to vote in 1960, to vote, you had to lose your Indian status. If you lost your Indian status, you were no longer welcome to live on the reserve you were living on before. Racism. First Nations have faced hundreds of thousands of acts of racism. More than half of the First Nations in Canada say that they've experienced racism in the past. Some First Nations feel like the only safe place for them is with their own community. Traditions banned. Imagine not being able to do your favorite dance for 66 years. This is exactly what happened to First Nations, as their potlatch ceremony and Sundance were banned from 1885 until 1951. We're not allowed to be or hire a lawyer. Imagine always wanting to do something, and once you're about to do it, you were stopped. This is what happened to some First Nations, as they wanted to be lawyers, but they couldn't. And also, if a First Nation got in trouble, in court, they were not allowed to have a lawyer. Needed permission to leave the reserve. Just envision being an adult and having to ask someone to go somewhere all the time. Wouldn't it be annoying? This is what happened to First Nations on reserves. If you were caught leaving without permission, you were imprisoned or returned back. Not considered persons until 1951. Think about feeling isolated because you are not considered a person like others. Sadly, this is exactly what happened to First Nations, as they were not considered persons until 1951. Sent to residential schools. Depict having a loved one or friend taken from you by force. Sadly, this happened to First Nations, as kids were taken to residential schools. 50% of children who went didn't even benefit from it, and there were brutal punishments such as pins through the